Any questions here after our first practice?
Sean, how good is it to get Greg Dulcich back on practice today, especially this time of year?
Yeah, I think it's good. Obviously, he's like the last player really that can come up, and he gives us speed, an element that's uniquely different. And quite honestly, our young guy Lucas is really doing a good job with a similar type of role, if you will. But it was good to have him out there today, and it certainly will help.
With the repeat nature of that, is there anything outside?
That's a great question. I would be the last one to ask. I mean, look, we've studied body weight, gait, how he runs, what's different from college. He's flown everywhere with his rehab. I do think we've got a real good handle relative to moving forward. And he's seen a lot of specialists. And so a lot of times, how much weight is the chassis meant to carry? I say that respectfully, and then paying attention to it. But he's been real diligent, extremely diligent in the recovery and everything he's needed to do.
Do you expect him to play on Saturday?
We'll see.
Sean, it's hard to change. It's hard to change like a golf swing or a jump shot. Is it hard to change the way a guy runs?
Well, when I say that, look, it probably is, and yet, is he running with the same gait he did in college? Those type of things, or has the running gait changed as he's gained weight? Those type of things. But like I said at the beginning, I'm not the expert on that. Bo and those guys are doing a good job.
When you talk Marvin obviously is at the top of the league in terms of punt return average, kickoff return average, but I'm wondering if you're just as impressed with the selectiveness in which he's, choosing when to pick his spots. How do you view just how he's?
I think it's a great question because we've seen 2 weeks ago we saw the number one punter relative to average hang time. So when you have a guy that's at the top of the league with hang time, you're going to have tougher decisions to fair catch or go, because the ball's going to be in there or longer. And then last week, they were second in hang time. So back-to-back, he saw two punters that were going to challenge the decision whether to take it. And I think he's handled that well, relative to seeing what the return is. Are we singling the gunners? Are we doubling the gunners? Periffin, where the traffic's at. There's some instincts there that I think he's done a good job with.
With Jaquan, I know you weren't here obviously for his rookie year, but you talk a lot about sort of vision and what a guy's role is, and I'm wondering if there's something unique about just the way he was a practice squad guy last year.
Yeah, listen,
playing like a pro.
Obviously, the instincts you feel and see on tape. It's hard to measure those. I'll give you an example. The linebacker we're going to play that we drafted in New Orleans, Alex Anzalone, was at Florida. And there were two linebackers coming out that year. One Detroit drafted in the first round, Davis, I'm not sure. But when we watched the tape of those linebackers, the one thing Alex had was outstanding instincts, and like the first step relative to play recognition, and regardless of what position you play, that's a very valuable trait as a pro football player. And so back to Jaquan, you see that and you feel that, and then in split-second decisions, he's making the right ones and he's in the right area. And guys that lack instincts will always find themselves kind of a day late and a dollar short. And so we spent a lot of time in the evaluation process with the college or free agency trying to evaluate that. But I think that's something that is he's done a good job with.
You coached a lot of great receivers during your time. With Cortland, the improbability of his catches, at least through next-gen stats, is off the charts. Is that become the expectation based on what you guys see in practice?
Look, forget the next-gen stuff. Let's just go by what we're watching. I see a big player who transitions well, who high points the ball well, who's got strong traffic hands, and I've coached players like that. And then a quarterback who can get the ball down the field when a play's broken. And, obviously that play the other day, there were three things. The coverage went to Judy. All right. Protection was outstanding. Cortland then saw Russ, and Russ had the arm strength. And so, man, he's playing well. He's competitive. He's smart. He's got strong hands in traffic, and obviously he's confident. And so, I like it better when two hands catch the ball than one, but he's had a couple where it's been a little bit harder to get the second hand on. And so, yeah, I think when we do red zone here tomorrow night, inside the 20, you start looking for high point balls. We had a play in last week's game trying to, the nickel is someone we're familiar with, who's a good player and a great kid, and not a kid, but, we were trying to find a way to get Sutton on Passy with just, and so I don't know if next gen measures that, but those are the type matchups that you look to take advantage of, and then the odds creep in your favor.
Their run game with Gibbs and Montgomery's right up there with anybody in the league.
So we followed, just so happens that it seems like we played a lot of opponents after they played them. And I can't go through them all, but I'll bet there's 5 different games where Detroit's been on the cut-ups. Last week, the Chargers. The week before, just go down the line. They've done a tremendous job offensively. Johnny Morton, our passing game coordinator, was just there a year ago. Dan hired Ben to coordinate the offense, and he's been fantastic. They run the ball out of 2-back sets, which I like. And you see that they get to certain menus to take advantage of what they're seeing. A couple runs, 3 passes. They're very detail oriented. You see it on tape. They're well coached. And then you take the young tight end, and you take the receiver, and you take the 2 backs and the quarterback, and they've been impressive. It's a tape that I watch each week. It's one of those offenses that they're doing a lot of good things, and it's evident on the film and in the statistics, and it's one of the reasons they're winning. And there's so many ties for me, with this staff. Obviously, I've been with Dan. I was in New York when we drafted him. When I went to Dallas, I convinced Bill to sign him as a free agent, and I signed him later in New Orleans as a player, and then I spent the better part of 2 or 3 years trying to hire him as a coach, and I was lucky enough eventually to. And he became assistant head coach, and I have tremendous respect for everything about him, what he stands for, how he coaches. And then you have Aaron Glenn, who I hired, who's the same way, going to be a head coach, fabulous player, tremendous coach, tremendous, these guys, Alex, you got Mark Brunell. There's a number of guys with a lot of ties. And so as a former head coach of theirs, you're proud of them. You really are. And so, enough flowers.
With Russell Wilson, his wife having a baby, was there ever a jeopardy that he would miss a game or anything?
No, his wife had a baby, and Ben's wife had a baby as well. Ben doesn't have 2.8 million followers, though, so less people know about Ben's baby. But anyway, those 2 guys both had baby girls. So
When it comes to Dan, he preaches physicality. Do you see that show up on tape?
absolutely, I see a team that reflects their head coach. Absolutely, man, they're physical in the running game. They've got a young, talented offensive line. How they play defensively, absolutely. And look, we're in a passion business, and Bill, you talk to me all the time. We're looking for passion people, and he epitomizes that. I'm talking about Dan. And so he's passionate. about everything he does. I mean, we sat in, I can't tell you about how many hours we sat in offensive meetings till 2 a.m, and he was a part of all of it. And extremely, extremely good worker, and someone, like I said, for the better part of I think it was 2000 draft. We're 2023. I can't think of how many years we were together, but a lot of them. And then there were a few years where he was in Miami, where he was playing somewhere else. But for the better part of my NFL career, he's been a guy that, fortunately for me, I've been on the same team with.
Sean, when you were studying Zach Allen's film, how much of it was his ability to have this kind of endurance late in games where it seems like
it's a great trait. And again, I've used this comparison. They're different players, different positions, but Cam Jordan in New Orleans was that guy who could play 58 like it was play 4. Their stamina, their cardio, they're strong. It's hard to be small, period, and play 60 plays an hour. So the bigger guys generally, don't require the same amount of energy as the smaller players, and so he's got size and strength and all of those things. But it's a good trait you're referencing.
Sean, back to Aaron Glenn. What are just the properties of his defense?
So there's a lot of what we did in New Orleans, and then he's put his own twist on a number of things. They're going to play man-to-man coverage. We're going to do third down tonight. They do a good job mixing up the zone pressures. He's done a great job of taking his talent and then putting together the defense that fits it. They've had some injuries. Chauncey's out now, so they're playing the rookie from Alabama, Branch, at nickel, and they give you pressure looks that are challenging. A lot of single safety zone, but man-to-man, they'll play some 2 deep shell. But it's not just the scheme, it's how they play. They play hard, and that's how Aaron was. I mean, Aaron played 15, 16 years in the league, and in order to do that, he was something.
When you had your introductory press conference, you had your pocket square pointing up as an example of details matter. Do details matter more in December, or is it a byproduct of how
It
you?
never stopped mattering. We had those little gold lines on the field. You guys see them?
Yep.
So, look, there's one play in the Charger game that I think scores a touchdown if our split was 2 yards tighter. And so there's an alley, there's -2, there's +2, there's 7 splits. And I felt like, man, did we not do a good enough job of, that little alignment? And so those splits on the field will allow them to see they constantly matter. And they keep you up at night, if we covered everything. And then when they matter in a positive way and you have success, you recognize it and you're glad you covered it. And so I think it's the essence of what we do.
Sean, you've won 6 of your last 7. Do you still feel like there's a pretty high ceiling for this team, still to work underneath?
Look, it's hard. It's week to week. I think we're still improving. I think we're still improving. I don't think there's this is the plateau we're at. I mean, I think, we've got to win these work days. We've got to win today and tomorrow. And knowing that this last quarter poll, there's a lot at stake. And so, here's a Saturday night game. And we're in the entertainment business, and if you're playing well, you're going to find yourself on Monday nights and Sunday nights and Thursday nights. And if you're not, you're going to be at 2:25 Denver time or 12 noon, on the East Coast. And so the recovery, the rest, all of those things are important in this stretch. But I do think that, when you put the tape on, you're searching still for that Shangri-La game, if you will.
With Benito, is he an IR risk, or do you think you can?
No. We'll keep you posted though with Benito and tight end starting or playing and all that stuff. We'll let you know.
John, is your challenge different this week, given that you're facing an opponent coached by a guy who's so familiar with you?
No, I don't think so. I think much is made of that. Think about the tape. Like, I'm going to look at third down tonight, and we'll probably look at every game last year, every game this year. And so now I know Aaron very well. And so I don't think so. I know this. I know Dan, is someone will have his team ready. They'll be aggressive. They're a special teams unit, lead the league in fakes over the last however many years. And so Dan kind of saw that from us, I think, and I learned it from Bill. And so, but I think, man, there's all the films out there, relative to 2 years of their offense and 2 years of their defense. And we've got now a full season ourselves offensively and defensively. I don't think that plays any part really. There's a lot of respect, but I think, I think that would be it. All right. Thank you guys.